Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for November 23, 2022, the Return the Money edition. And we begin with that story from Channel 5, which is on your side in St. Louis. First-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News. A St. Louis alderman who was bribed by government witnesses in a sting operation says he should not have to return the money because it was an investigative cost. I have to say that's a pretty ballsy move, but his attorneys entered an objection to a recommendation that his client pay back the money because it does not. The court is not authorized to order restitution of buy money. That's in quotes, because restitution under the statute is for victims, and the government's not a victim. So you have to give them credit. Happy Thanksgiving. Next up from the Financial Times, German police recently raided offices of Swiss bank UBS in Germany in connection with a money laundering investigation into a Uzbek-born Russian billionaire. UBS branches in Frankfurt and Munich were searched. The subject of the investigation is suspicion of money laundering against a businessman from the Russian Federation. The allegations are not aimed at the banks concerned or its employees. Hard to believe that's not true. Next up, a press release from the Department of Treasury says that the DOT will now be targeting Russian-backed corruption in the Guatemalan mining sector. The DOT is exploring their role in exploiting Guatemala's mining, and the individuals named in the executive order are also fall under the Magnitsky Human Rights Accountability Act. So Russian corruption is ubiquitous, and now we see its reach here into the Western Hemisphere. No surprise there. And finally, from the Washington Free Beacon, another first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, Senator Bob Menendez of Democrat of New Jersey and his wife are under federal investigation for allegedly taking gifts and services in exchange for political favors. The associates of Menendez's wife, who married him in 2020, were subpoenaed by the U.S. Attorney's Office. It's not exactly clear what the information they were looking for, but I think listeners will recall that Menendez successfully defended himself against bribery and corruption allegations in an earlier case. I hope everyone will have a happy, joyous, and safe Thanksgiving, whether you're alone with your family or with your loved ones. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.